Hey everyone, it's David here with a quick note before we dive into today's episode. This one's a little different, a short bonus episode that's outside our usual focus on expert interviews. But don't worry, we'll be back next week with a brand new science episode featuring groundbreaking research in the field of morality. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. We'll be introducing some important new findings that could reshape the way we think about outrage, polarization, and the moral forces driving our divides. So enjoy today's short episode, and be sure to tune in next week as we get back into the science of outrage with the experts. Welcome to Outrage Overload, a science podcast about outrage and lowering the temperature. Hey everyone, I'm your host, David Beckmeyer, and I've got something a little different for you today. This is a special bonus episode featuring a conversation I had on another podcast called What's Your Ripple? Now, if you're a regular listener of Outrage Overload, you know we talk a lot about the forces that drive outrage and division, but we also explore ways to stay grounded, stay mindful, and push back against that toxic cycle. In this episode, I share a personal practice I use to stay focused on my values, a simple ritual involving pebbles that serves as a reminder of the impact we all have. It's about being intentional with our time, recognizing the ripples we create, and making sure they reflect the kind of person we want to be. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it.
So the other day we were on a meetup with Dave Campbell from for How to Podcast series. And you had mentioned a story about pebbles. And you know me, I'm a ripple guy. I always say that we all put out ripples, be it positive or negative. And I like to put out positive ripples in the world. But what you shared really brings home that effect and how we can embrace that to live our best present moment, our best, fullest potential of who we are today. And if you would please, Dave, please share that story with us.
Yeah, so this is probably a little different than some of your other ripple stories because this one is sort of a literal ripple, but then it's also kind of a metaphor, for as you say. So yeah, it was a few years ago now. I was thinking about this idea, and I put it together. And what I did is I actually went out and counted pebbles. So I counted out pebbles to a certain time in the future. We don't have to go to specific details, but I counted out a pebble, one pebble per week. So I counted out those weeks, and I put all those pebbles in a jar. Okay. So first of all, they're just natural little pebbles. They're there's nothing special about the pebbles, really. I mean, and they're also, I didn't want a man-made thing. I wanted something from nature. So I got these pebbles, I put them in a jar. And then what I do at the beginning of each week is I take a pebble and I put it in my pocket, and now it's there. And during the week, I kind of have that pebble. I can always feel it and kind of tumble it in my fingers, and it's always right there. And it's kind of a reminder of kind of who I want to be. How do I want to behave in life? What are some things I aspire to? Things like that. A little reminder that's always there. And then at the end of each week, I take that pebble and I dispose of it, in nature somewhere. And usually my ideal place is a body of water of some kind. So like a little stream or a pond or something like that. And I kind of do a little ritual where I kind of reflect and on how did I do this week for those values and living those values. How did I do? Was I kind to people? Did I listen more than I talked? And that's this kind of thing, right? And I just kind of go through that and how did I do that week? And then I toss the pebble into that body of water. And what happens when you toss a pebble into a body of water, right? I mean, you get those literal ripples. And then I just kind of watch that pebble, get lost in the water and sink down. And I watch the ripples for as long as I can and kind of think about that reflection. And, one thing that I talked about, I thought was interesting that I really noticed the other day is for whatever reason, I was disposing my pebble really early in the morning. And the little stream was just still. Like usually there's some flow, but at that day, it was just the stillest thing. It just looked like it almost surreal, like how still it was. And I just really noticed when I put that pebble that day, the ripples you could see for so long, right? I just watched those ripples. You could see this ripple go so far away down that stream
Right.
because it was so still. When it's running fast, my ripple kind of gets lost in the noise of the stream, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's some kind of metaphor there too about
True.
at some point when we're able to, I don't know, there's something there. I don't know exactly what it is, but something along those lines that when you're able to make an impact in a more calmer situation, I think that impact can be much greater, and you can see it more when you're not throwing it into a storm, right?
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
you can see your impact, and so yeah, it is that literal, ripple, but then those ripples are sort of a metaphor for how did I do that week, and a big piece of it is people say, well, isn't this kind of sad, like what's going to happen when you run out of pebbles? Well, nothing's going to necessarily happen. But at the same time, if I'm able to throw out all those pebbles and go through this, those many weeks, I'll figure I'll have lived a pretty good life, right? Whichever way it goes. And,
Yeah.
my family will be happy they'll be happy if I dispose every one of those pebbles, right? Um,
Right.
and I don't talk about to people how many there are, what, how far it goes out in the future or anything. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's not like I'm saying on that day I'm done, right? But who
Yeah.
knows what happens on the last pebble? But if I throw the last pebble out, I'll feel pretty good about that. And the other piece about it that I like to think about is that for me, it's a big piece and the other piece that kind of counters this idea. Wasn't this sad in some way? Is that to me, that pebble represents a week I could never get back, right? So I think that's important to realize that, we can't make it up later. You know what I mean? When that time is gone, and whatever I said is said. I can't take it back, all that kind of thing. Whatever I did, and I can't take that back either. So, that to me, that tries to keep me more mindful about things that, this week, and also make how precious this time is, right? How many weeks we have and what we can do with each of those weeks. And like I say, you can't get it back. It's not like I can just, magically pull some of the pebbles back and get those weeks back. They're gone forever.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. That is really, really beautiful.
Well, I mean, one thing, yeah, thank you. And one thing and I'm not saying I have all the answers, by the way. Like sometimes I have bad weeks, right? I mean, one thing about it that I was thinking about that was kind of a driver for this too is kind of the neuroscience and the psychology around that, we if we don't really understand our values, it's hard. It sort of makes everything else difficult. Like, how can you make a decision about things if you don't really understand yourself well enough? And so this little ritual makes me revisit that more often than we usually do, right? Because we don't like those questions. They're kind of hard questions, right? What are my values? What do I really stand for? Who do I want to be? And we don't touch on that enough because we're busy scrolling on social media. We're doing all these distractions that we have every day to distract us from those kind of questions. So taking the time to do that ritual for me is a way to also kind of counter all those possible distractions and make me spend a little time at least revisiting all that. And just, am I consistent with it? Are these even the values I still, hold or whatever, and so I've looked at so much research about that we all need to do that so much more because without that grounding, it's just so hard. No wonder we're stressed out because we don't even know what we want.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. If we're not focused, if we don't know what we want, we're lost. And yeah, and the pebble effect, that ripple effect and the pebble, um, beautiful. I love that. And
Another thing I guess I'll start doing in my ritual more, and I have done this since talking to you and meeting you and learning about your show. I do this more. It wasn't part of my ritual before, but as I'm watching that ripple, I'm thinking about what was my ripple this week. Like, so I kind of added that to my ritual, and I'm going to keep doing that more. So every time I see you in the meetup we talked about, I always go, "Oh yeah, JJ and the ripple, man. I got to really focus on that."
well, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm making a ripple in your life.
Right?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's beautiful.
One aspect I really like about you know that the idea of the pebble and starting with a new one is that notion that we have to remember time is fleeting, and
Yeah,
that really focus on now, right, more, because
yeah.
don't get too attached to this rock.
No, yeah, yeah. Don't get too attached to anything because it's all temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you, David, for sharing that. Beautiful idea, and I hope the listener takes a little bit out of it and actually adopts the Pebble a Week idea for yourself and realize that life is fleeting. It's disappearing. We are all rushing to the end of it. It's nice to take time and pause, love yourself, and be aware of your ripple that you are putting out there in the world, because we are all making ripples.
Indeed.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. A big thank you to JJ for having me on What's Your Ripple. I really appreciated the chance to reflect on the ripples we all create. JJ's doing incredible work, not just with his podcast, but also with Ripple Retreat. After a remarkable 27 years in the military, he's still dedicated to serving, now by helping others thrive. Definitely check out What's Your Ripple. And learn more about Ripple Retreat at ripple-retreat.com. That is it for this episode of the Outrage Overload podcast. For links to everything we talked about on this episode, go to outrageoverload.net. Want to dive deeper? Check out my Substack at outrageoverload.substack.com or outrageoverload.net/newsletter for more insights beyond the podcast. Subscribe, comment, and join the conversation. If you found this episode valuable, please share it or leave a review. It really helps. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.